This film is a record of 2 years of building, installation and production in the Toyota Manufacturing Australia engine plant.
We intend to continue in the future the constructive role that we see coming from a combination of a welcome at this end and a capacity, financial and technological, at the other.
Toyota products have a reputation for reliability, finish, competitive pricing, for style, and perhaps now more important than ever before, for a reasonable fuel consumption.
There is excitement in new enterprises. I invite you to share this excitement with us of Toyota and side by side help this enterprise to full success.
As Prime Minister, I'm delighted to be here to take part in this ceremony. It's a ceremony that symbolizes in the strongest way Toyota's faith in Australia. The company is not only investing in the newest and most modern engine plant in Australia, but is committing itself to Australia's future. Mr. Toyota, I wish you and your company and your Australian partners well in this particular venture, and I have great pleasure in declaring this factory open.
Toyota Manufacturing Australia, TMA, have combined with Australian Motor Industries, AMI, to produce the all-Australian Corolla.
エネルギーの効率的利用ということは、この国にとっても大きな命題になってくるものと思います。この時期にあたり、さらに品質の良い製品が出てくることを期待している次第であります。
In making motor vehicles anywhere in the world, our first concern is quality. Consideration has been given to equip this plant with facilities and equipments necessary to maintain and improve the quality level of its products. Some of you were here about 2 years ago on this same location. The building wasn't here. The occasion was the laying of the foundation stone by the Premier, Mr. Hamer.
200 guests, the press and the workers, joined in the celebration to mark the beginning of this joint Japanese-Australian venture. The president of the Toyota Motor Company, Mr. Eiji Toyoda, was in Australia for the ceremony.
日本人駐在の必要性は年とともに減じていくに違いありません。
The operation of the Altona factory will be all Australian, with Japanese technicians in advisory capacities as required. And assuredly, these requirements will diminish as time goes on because we have every faith in the ability of Australians to produce the quality products on which the Toyota's name has been built. If we didn't have that faith, I wouldn't be here today.
The Altona plant is sited on 54 hectares of land, 15 kilometres from the city of Melbourne. The foundation stone was laid by the Premier of Victoria, Mr. Dick Hamer.
We're witnessing today the beginnings of the largest investment made by the Toyota Motor Company outside Japan.
The cost of the land and the building was to be $40 million, And at Altona, the foreman for the building contractors, Civil and Civic, was Colin Grettrex. Colin now looks back on the whole project.
Civil and Civic started on the Toyota site March 1977. We started in this area over here, which was the main building area. We struck a lot of volcanic rock, which caused us some large problems with the excavation works. It slowed us down considerably in the project until we finally got over the bulk excavation. We were able to get into the footings and get into some of the structural steel work, which took us into June 77, where we had the wettest period for many years. This caused other problems with locating the structural steel on the ground, which was quite a problem. We had to try and keep the steel free from the mud.
Civil and Civic had erected the first structural frame on July the 11th, 1977, and the building was handed over to TMA 12 months later, on July the 31st, 1978. During March 1978, the first equipment was delivered to the plant. It was shipped from the port of Nagoya, Japan, on a 2-week journey to the port of Melbourne. The first containers of equipment were for the engine test line. There then followed machinery and equipment for the engine assembly line, foundry, and transmission assembly line. There were 37 shipments over 12 months, adding up to a total of 330 items of machinery and equipment. The Toyota Motor Company is continually aiming at staying always ahead of the times. And it was back in 1976 that Toyota concentrated their planning on the small 4-passenger car. This planning was to result in the commitment to build the plant in Australia to manufacture the 4K Corolla engine. There were also 133 items of local equipment installed at Altona. The installation of the engine assembly and test equipment began on May the 22nd, 1978. June the 22nd saw the commencement of the machine lines, and October the 18th, TMA began to install the foundry equipment. Plant manager Bill Bristow talks about the installation program and staffing.
The installation of the assembly line and the ancillary tools that are adjacent to it for the purpose of engine assembly. This installation was done by TMC staff in conjunction with company Luxford Engineering, who are basically produced the conveyor system and installed that as part of the overall assembly structure. Commencement of staffing of the assembly line was in April 1978.
The parent company also supplied supervising engineers and staff during the middle months of 1978. The basic assembly line staff was 10 people, and after months of testing, the first engines were assembled in October 1978. There were as many as 65 supervisors from Toyota Japan at any one time during this vital setting up and trial period. The inauguration ceremony of the engine assembly line. Mr. Michiyuki Inukai, Director and Chief Executive of Toyota Manufacturing Australia, opened proceedings.
We would not be celebrating today if it were not for the generous assistance that AMI has rendered to TMA in this project as a partner. At this special occasion, I'd like to call upon its Managing Director and also Deputy Chairman of TMA, Mr. Hoffman, for a few words.
In here to walk round here, and I have the feel that it has this feel of a happy company.
Today I feel very happy to be able to share...
Mr. Masuo Amano, the director of the Kamigo engine plant in Japan.
The operation of Toyota Manufacturing Australia. As you may recall, the construction of this plant began in May last year as a part of joint effort of Toyota and AMI to increase the local content level of Toyota's passenger car in Australia. And I request your continued cooperation and support to TMA so that this excitement will further grow to bear more beautiful fruits.
Mr. Amano was in Australia to christen the first 4K Corolla engine. Volume production on the assembly line was commenced in mid-October that year. The capacity is 3,000 engines a month. Trial foundry production began on February the 5th, 1979. Bill Bristow explains the operation.
The machine is a 1,250-ton Ube high-pressure aluminium die-casting machine. The casting is that we use in the transmission case with a weight factor of approximately 5.5 to 6 kilograms. Casting time, 1 minute 45 seconds. The operation of this machine is fully automated from the initiating of the machine by the operator, by the depression of a go button. The full cycle takes approximately 1 minute 45 seconds. Monthly capacity, average 2,300 units.
On April the 23rd, 1979, full volume foundry production started in anticipation of the full capacity production on the manual transmission assembly line.
The second machine is a 600-ton high-pressure die-casting machine, also manufactured by Ube of Japan. The casting operation is shown here as the water outlet housing. This is a small high-pressure die-casting, and it's die-cast in a multi-stage cavity die.
December 1978, the trial period for the machining lines for the main engine components, commencing with the cylinder block.
Within the structure of the line, there are 59 machine tools.